And Brittany? And Brittany Green. We went out. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I was gonna say, oh, in the cafeteria, but I didn't.
In June.
Yeah, it's this end of this month, isn't it?
I don't know, but that's shame.
No, it's on my phone.
So try to give you some of it done.
It's an all day thing.
Don't worry. Cause it literally is the same thing that you on that 18-hour thing.
Yeah, it's the
It's
second.
really pretty much. Needs a little more conversation, but for the most part, this is stuff. So this way though, if you look at it, you'll be a little bit more familiar with it. But all those different acronyms, because that was my contemplation. I don't know what all those acronyms stand for. Like the MSBA stands for Missouri School Board Association. There is a layer between us and DESI. That's them.
I'll be sitting there writing it down. You know, I'm sitting right there. Right.
Mhm. Aren't you fine? Thursday.
One graduated from 8th grade to one graduated from.
Yep, I got you number one. You're right there. Yes. You don't even need to finish. Yeah.
A friend of mine is great. I knew her before she was on this earth. She was there. She graduates from Clayton High School.
So,
Thursday. So I can't be at two places at one time. But you know what? And I am hustling here. Actually, nobody, I remember when I first started, if I didn't know, the DLT to the board, you really don't know who's who, what they do, what happened, so.
Thank you. That's it.
After you've been here.
Photos,
where they at? How is it? Oh, well. It ain't like I know how to look. Oh, here it is, yeah, shot. Can I have all of my pictures?
Let's put it for.
You can have all of my pictures.
And you didn't tell me I was all oily.
We'll be starting in about a minute.
I sent her a text to verify.
Just put my Vaseline on my face.
And this is scary of this picture.
Okay, I'll go.
What other picture?
Good evening, everyone. It is now 7 p.m. We're going to go into our open session meeting. Ms. Fields, would you do a roll call vote to establish a quorum?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Coleman,
Present.
Marvell,
Present.
Mrs. Mark,
Present.
Mr. Blaine,
Yeah.
Jackson.
Present.
We have Dr. Avant Elliott on Zoom.
Present.
Right. May I have an approval of the agenda?
Moved.
May I have a second? Second. Roll call vote, Shay? I know.
Madam President,
call
for the
vote.
question.
Okay, Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Marvell,
Yes.
Mrs. Mark,
Yes.
Blaine,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Dr. Avant Elliott,
I had asked for the question. I don't think she heard me.
Okay. There you go.
Madam President, have we removed the RFP from the agenda? Because it would not have been removed in enough time for the citizens. I think we might need to make a motion to remove it off the agenda. The email that we received for the RFP to be removed for the food service. It was received 6 hours before the meeting, so we have to make a motion to amend the agenda to remove it.
They want you to call her name again, Shay.
Dr. Von Elliott.
Oh, did you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear? Can you hear? Can you hear? Hello?
Okay,
Hello?
thank you.
Can you hear
We
me?
will now move to our patron participation, and I see that we do have one person who would like to speak before the board. We're going to ask that you would please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And if required, a written or oral response will be given after the meeting. And if a written response is needed, please this will allow time to gather information and to answer questions or concerns accurately and completely. And I believe that we have the pleasure of having a Belltown Alderwoman.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
I wanted to address the board as well as the public in regards to box tops for education. I was speaking with a bunch of parents as well as those that are in the community in regards to box tops for education. Many of you may know what it is. Some of you may not know what it is, but it's the little bitty box top that you can find on some of your groceries. And I used to do this when my kids were little. Back then, we used to be able to clip them and send them to the school, and the school would send them in. Now they do everything electronically. So I came to address the school board and hope that the parents, as well as board members, faculty, and anyone else will adopt a school in our district. You can adopt any school, but I'm hoping and praying that you guys adopt a school in our district. I personally adopted Danforth because it's an elementary school that's close to my home, as well as that's where my kids got started here in the district when we moved here 19 years ago. You can go to boxtopsforeducation.com. You can go to Google, type it in. It'll pop up. It'll tell you how it works. It looks like this. And it'll ask you what school you would like to adopt. Once you get to $1,000, you scan your receipts. It's really simple. They have the QR code that you can scan. Once you get to $1,000, that amount is dispersed to your school of choice, and your amount starts all over. So for me, it's $1,000. Once I can get $1,000, it go back to zero. And I'll be so excited once I get to $1,000 because I'm like, yes, therefore. That's really it at all. I came to address the board. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak this evening. Do you have any questions?
Box top for education?
Boxtopsforeducation.com.
Is that all together?
Yes, you go to Google
And Google.
and it's box tops, BOXTOPS, the number 4,
Oh,
education.com.
yeah, you said that.
Me too.
Thank you so much.
I know
Thank
I used
you.
to clip up too.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you for stopping by the meeting today. Okay, are there any announcements? Board members, I just wanted to bring to your attention, during the month of June, the 16th and the 17th, Missouri School Board Association will be having their Igniting Great Ideas Summit. This year is going to be in Branson, Missouri. And so I just saw where they opened up registration. So if you think that you would like to attend it, they do have information on the website already. So you can look on the website and get the information and let Shay know if you think that you want to attend. And I believe that that's a Friday and a Saturday. Okay. Any additional announcements? Okay, we will then call for our student representative for her report, Ms. Precious Berry.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Patton, and community. I'm here to report to you the student report today. On May 12th, Highland Elementary hosted an amazing career fair that I attended. They got to see so many essential workers, such as police officers, firefighters, construction workers, and also what was so important to me was that they got to dream big. Having a career fair at such an early school, grade was so amazing to me because they got to see the experience of just seeing older people in those positions that they want to be in. Also, our newly elected Bellefonte Mayor, Mayor Donna Tapman came, and she also spoke to the young children about civics and how our system works. Last week on the 10th, us seniors attended our luncheon at Catering to You. The food was amazing. We got to reflect on the school year. We had amazing presenters come up. Also, we had Dr. Patton and our superintendent, Dr. JPA, speak to the class as well. We also gave out amazing awards to the scholars for scholarships, National Honor Societies, our other programs that we had in our school. As also this Thursday is our commencement ceremony that we'll be having at UMSU for the seniors graduation, which we all have been waiting for this moment to basically embark into our new journey in life. And also I wanted to say congratulations to the amazing NJROTC cadets who were honored at the last week past and review at an award ceremony at River Gardens High School. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the superintendent's report, and pinch hitting for Dr. JPA is Dr. Tanya Patton.
Thank you. I was gonna make sure everybody knew I was not Dr. Jorlyn Pruitt-Adams. I am Dr. Tanya Patton, the Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services. And Ishmael will be the first one to present under superintendent's announcements.
Thank you, Dr. Patton. Good evening, Special Administrative Board, colleagues, community, students, and sitting in Superintendent Dr. Patton. Today, we have Juanita Shaw. I'd like to ask her to stand. Ms. Shaw is one of our teachers at Westview Middle School. Earlier this year, she was honored as the district's Teacher of the Year. And so we received a resolution from Representative Marlene Terry. So we want to present that to Ms. Shaw. So let me read this for Ms. Shaw. And so this resolution is from the Missouri House of Representatives. It says, whereas the members of the Missouri House of Representatives welcome with pleasure the opportunity to recognize a remarkable Missouri citizen whose efforts and accomplishments have made her a source of inspiration to all those around her. And whereas Juanita Shaw has been chosen as the Teacher of the Year, a most impressive accolade that was bestowed upon her by the Riverview Gardens School District during its District Teacher of the Year celebration held on March 28, 2023 at Westview Middle School in St. Louis, Missouri. And whereas Juanita Shaw is a dynamic and innovative teacher at Westview Middle School, where she has served as a 6th grade social studies teacher for the past 4 years. And whereas a thoughtful, energetic teacher who is loved by her students and coworkers alike, Juanita Shaw is an esteemed educator who demonstrates considerable competence and remarkable degrees of compassion and understanding. And whereas Juanita Shaw is deeply committed to the cause of learning and has helped youngsters form a solid educational foundation upon which to build in the future, efforts which have earned her a reputation as a fair and motivated teacher who takes personal interest in every student's individual learning style. And Whereas Juanita Shaw has supported her profession by earning a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Harris Stowe State University and a master's degree in curriculum and instruction and educational leadership from the University of Phoenix. And whereas Juanita Shaw will proceed as the representative for the Missouri State Teacher of the Year nomination hosted by the Missouri Teacher of the Year program, facilitated annually by the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, collaboratively with the National Teacher of the Year program. And whereas Juanita Shaw can take pride in knowing that she has consistently given more than 100% to all those activities in which she has so generously and enthusiastically participated. Now, therefore, it be resolved that we, the members of the Missouri House of Representatives, 102nd General Assembly, join in extending our most hearty congratulations to Juanita Shaw for her selection as the Riverview Garden School District Teacher of the Year, and in further wishing her continued success in all future endeavors. And be it further resolved that the Chief Clerk of the Missouri House of Representatives be instructed to prepare a properly inscribed copy of this resolution for Juanita Shaw. And this is signed by Representative Marlene Till. And if we can have, if we have board, acting superintendent, all come up and get a photo. She says she wishes her mother was here, and we definitely give you our thoughts and prayers.
She's here. Margaret Day is ready. Ms. Shaw, I'm really pleased to be representing Riverview Garden. There are 512 school districts that'll be having teachers from the their Teacher of the Year. So we're gonna give her a little extra. So hopefully she'll win.
Absolutely.
But it's such an honor.
All right, I'm going. All right.
Yeah, we'll let him get his first.
Got it. So count to three. 1, 2, 3. That was good. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
All right, hold on.
Sure. All right. 3, 2.
Thank you.
And before Ms. Shaw leaves, I do want to say that every single time I'm over at Westview, I walk into her classroom and those students are engaged, they're happy, they're smiling, they're rapping. They are, one came up and he decided he was an African prince and started talking in a different language to me. And they're always engaged and always love you. Even when you weren't there last week, I had students asking me where you were. Where's Mrs. Shaw? We want her to come back. So the environment that you set for those students is amazing. And there is a lot of love, nurturing, and then educating students in that environment. Without relationships, there is no learning, and you have perfected that. So congratulations, you are deserving. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, if you want to go, you can go now, Miss Shaw.
I have a few more announcements under the superintendent's report. Our graduation, our Miss Precious Berry kind of stole that from me, but as she said, our graduation, high school graduation is Thursday at UMSO at 6 p.m. We will also have all different promotions from kindergarten and fifth graders all week and all of next week, as well as the ACE graduation this Friday. So there are many celebrations happening. If you are interested in viewing our graduation ceremony, it will be on our YouTube channel, so you can access it from that as well. So many things happening this week. We have our end of the year celebration coming. That will be May 31st, right here on the at central office on the parking lot. That will be at 12:30. We have summer programs happening throughout our school district. Some are academic, some are fun. There's one that's happening with the St. Louis Science Center along with Boeing that will be at Meadows this year. And it has been in the past at Glasgow. So Glasgow will host it this summer as well as Meadows. So there are many things happening. So join us for any of our graduations, any of our kindergarten and fifth grade promotion ceremonies. That's it for the superintendent's announcement.
Madam President, I just want to make sure my sound is on. Thank you.
Good, okay, thank you.
Moving into items for information. Our first item for information is Board Docs 2 Community Upgrade. That is being presented by Shay Fields, Coordinator of Board Governance, and Dr. Larry.
I believe Dr. Larry is not going to be here, but I did consult with her. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Special Administrative Board and Dr. Patton, as you represent Dr. Joylyn Pruitt-Adams in her absence. What I presented here is what's been offered to the district, and it's an opportunity to upgrade our current Board Docs platform, as you know it now, to community at no charge to the district. And I've known about this for the past year, and I've kind of just put it off for a number of reasons. One being that it took us over 12 years before we started to use the platform in its full capacity, meaning that we have various various committees that are now in Board Docs for a number of reasons. For accountability, they're able to upload documentation for each of their meetings in Board Docs. And so to just uproot it and start a new platform, was a little unnerving for me. But I talked with the Board Docs community, and they assured me that the transition should be seamless. What will happen is myself and Ms. King will get trained on it first. We'll spend approximately a month, maybe 2 months, until we become very familiar with it. And then we would phase in each of those committees that are currently using the Board Docs platform. So the Special Administrative Board will be first. So actually, I'll be operating 2 platforms where they will transition all of our information to community. While I'm training, I'll still be using the Board Docs platform for the board meetings, and the committees that are currently in Board Docs will continue to use that platform as well. So I'm projected at about maybe 6 months before we can fully implement the community platform. Are there any questions? I hope I didn't confuse you, but it's something that if we don't take advantage of the opportunity now, that it could potentially cost us double what we're currently paying for, which is $17,000. And that's being paid out of the technology budget. And one of the reasons why Dr. Larry supported this upgrade is because the platform as we know it now will not receive any additional upgrades. So if there's anything, like if there's any little quirks that need to be worked out, they're just not going to provide the support. It is going to be what it is.
Any questions?
Yes.
Now, the update is free to the district.
So right now, the upgrade is free. And the reason why I presented this as information, June the 28th of 2022, Dr. Jorlin and I brought the user agreement for 5 years. And so we're locked in at 5 years at the current rate of $17,000 per year. If we don't take the upgrade this year and we wait maybe a year, maybe even 2 years, then I was told that that amount could double. But at this time, they're willing to allow us to update at no cost, no additional cost. Are there any more questions, concerns? We're looking at July for the training for myself and Ms. King, and then possible implementation fall, September, October. I was also told that there will be training videos, like what we don't have training videos. I personally train each and every individual that touches the Board Docs platform. And so going forward, we will have training opportunities through video and some other options as well. Are there any questions? Any other questions? Nope. Okay.
Thank you, Shay. Our next item for information is Priority School Presentation, May 2023. This is in line with CSIP Go under Effective Instruction and Policy IA. Making this presentation is Barbara Sharp, Executive Director of Continuous Improvement and Title IX Coordinator.
Good evening to the Special Administrative Board, Dr. Patton, in the absence of Superintendent Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, and community. In the past 2 board meetings, you've received data presentations from all of our turnaround schools. Tonight, 4 schools will present a brief synopsis of their work as part of the Priority Schools presentation at work. All presentations are for information only. I humbly ask that you hold your questions until the conclusion of the presentations, in which we will respond to your questions. Please receive at this time the amazing leaders from Central Middle School, Gibson Elementary School, LeMasters Elementary School, and the Riverview Gardens High School. Please receive them in that order. Thank you.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. T.A. Patton, community colleagues, and in 24 hours, future alum of Riverview Gardens. My name is Rachel Clark. I am in my 5th year as principal at Central Middle School. The first slide is simply stating our guiding coalition, which is formerly the leadership team at Central Middle School. We have adopted a new mission. There's a new view on the horizon at Central Middle School where learning is required. The first slide I'd like to speak to simply depicts some of the entries that were a part of our 30, 60, 90-day plan. These items were listed as needs assessments for a school when our solution tree coach came to the school to speak with us. I won't go over all of them, but just so you know, we knew that there was a need for our scholars to actually be able to track their own progress, their goals. So we inserted student goal finders or binders in every classroom core. We also revamped and refined the pacing guide and in a year at a glance for our scholars and our teachers, because we knew that we had so many standards that we needed to attack as priority standards that we didn't see in the district as priority, but DESE did. So we did a comparative analysis and we devised a new year at a glance for our scholars and our teachers. We also inserted tier 2 interventions in ELA and math, where we pulled out scholars that were in the top tier of below basic. So we tiered the tier. So initially in the beginning of the school year, our scholars were performing at below basic for almost 100% of them. So we had to actually tier the tier. So we took those scholars who were in the top tier of below basic and we inserted initial or additional interventions using anyone in our building that had free time. Celebrations this evening, I'm going to speak to our math star, fall versus spring. So I highlighted specifically 7th grade because that was an area of concern once we took our fall star. As you can see, 91% of our scholars in the fall for 7th grade scored below basic. 9% of them were basic. But moving forward, as you look to spring, we decreased that number in below basic. So 75% of our scholars were in the below basic area. Still not amazing, but the gains they made us feel a little bit better. The scholars celebrated as well. We also had scholars that moved to the basic category. And if you look at 7th grade again for fall, for proficient and advanced, we had 0 scholars in 7th grade. And now we have 8% of our scholars in proficient. I don't want to not mention 8th grade, as you look to see that there are 11% of our scholars for spring star that are performing in the top 2 tiers. So tonight I celebrate the math department at Central Middle School. Next steps, we determined that we needed to develop a calendar that was specific to a 10-day cycle for common formative assessments. That's in all core classes. Also, we want to make certain that this summer, when my guiding coalition meets and we have 4 4-hour PD sessions, we're going to plan Unit 1 for ELA, math, and science. So that'll already be done when teachers arrive. All they have to do is plot it, combine their lesson plans, and get ready to work because we have a lot of work to do still. Also, we're going to use the STAR data for spring to set our goals for next year. We're unpacking ELA and math priority standards based on the Missouri Learning Standards and what DESE states they consider as priorities. And then we're also going to develop the belief statements and collective commitment for our entire school community. Name it and claim it. This year, Central Middle School had a lot to celebrate. The first slide represents, we had 8th grade scholars that entered the Walmart Black History Essay Contest. One of our scholars won first prize in the region, which includes, of course, Missouri and a few surrounding states. She also won 3rd prize in the United States. So she goes without celebration tonight. The principal's honor roll, the wall is in our front foyer, and these scholars they have GPAs between 3.5 and 4.0. The literacy scholars or the literacy leaders walked to Gibson Elementary one day to read to the elementary scholars at Gibson. And the conversations and the experience they had was phenomenal. But they also asked, I don't know how you all do it. Central Middle School also had a science fair night in addition to the district science fair night. And you can see we have 2 of our top stars that were in attendance. The data folders as well, they were included in every core class. And again, this is where scholars were able to plot their goals based on their performance on different assessments. And also the teachers were able to leave feedback based on the goals that the scholars set. Two more entries that did not make the picture. We have a robotics team and it's in its 3rd year at Central Middle School. They compete at the St. Louis University robotics competition. And for the 2nd year in a row, our robotics team scored at platinum.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Wonderful.
We are very proud of them and the hard work. They work all year. And their coach is very rigorous. And finally, the district for the first time this year hosted a freckle mathathon in Central Middle School. Again, was first for the district. There's a traveling trophy for that, but we've decided that we're going to keep it. Without further ado, I would like to introduce the principal of Gibson Elementary School, Dr. Crystal Henderson.
Very good. Thank you, Rachel. Go ahead and bring it.
Said I'm gonna pull it down this time, so I don't have to stand on my tippy toes. Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Patton, colleagues, and community. The first slide that you see for Gibson Elementary School is our guiding coalition, and it also lists our vision statement, which we did revamp this year because we worked with Ed Plus on vision, missions, goals, and values. And our vision is Gibson Elementary School will be a place where students and adults are respectful, responsible, and trustworthy. With the support of Solution Tree this year, Gibson Elementary established 3 main goals through leadership discussions based on our 30, 60, and 90-day plan. The first goal was to reestablish our guided coalition, also known as our building leadership team. The next goal was to establish a huddle team that meets once a week in order to make action plans for tasks that need to be completed for that week. And then our third goal was to have collaborative grade level teams meet with the instructional coach to discuss and plan curriculum and instruction, effective lesson plans, review data, and determine outcomes. All goals have been met. It's not going back, but all goals have been met for the year and are ongoing, still ongoing. Celebrations from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year for our ELA STAR literacy assessments, and that's English Language Arts. So our celebrations include moving the percentages, our higher percentages of students in below basic and basic, decreasing those percentages and moving those students into proficient and or advanced categories. So we have increased those scholars from in proficient and advanced, increased those and decreased our below basic and basic numbers for most grade levels. This trend does put us on the track to meet grade level goals for the end of the school year for our end of year STAR assessment. Some next steps that I did pull from here are for us to include adding cultural observations to our walkthrough form so that we can make sure we are staying consistent with our climate and culture in our building. Also looking at SMART goals and supporting data for the 23-24 school year. So the goals from this particular school year for 22-23, we're looking at those and establishing goals for the next school year for 23-24. And then also developing a plan to use our intervention data that we collected this year and make sure that it's useful with determining student groupings for next year for 23-24. At this time, I would like to introduce my, name it, claim it.
Name it, claim it.
Whoa, hold on. I got to name it, claim it, because the very first picture that is on here is a special thanks to the Special Administrative Board for approving our interactive loo system, which the students love, love, love. That first slide is showing math facts practice where they're actually taking the ball and throwing it at the answers, and all the students that are sitting in the background are helping support them with the correct answers. The next slide is second grade students that are actually making comparisons with partners in the classroom. Our first ever family skate night that we held at Coach Light, families loved it and enjoyed it and said that they want to do it again. So we have that on the agenda for next year. And then generating hypothesis and testing the hypothesis with cooperative learning groups for an egg drop that happened. And then our PBIS celebration where they did a painting with a twist with snow cones. Now at this time, I would like to introduce my colleague, Mr. Brown Jr.
All right. Good evening, Special Administrative Board, colleagues, community, Dr. Patton. My name is Travis Brown Jr. I am the proud principal of Lee Masters Elementary. 5 minutes, I'll say 5 minutes is not enough time to share our journey for this school year, but I'll do my best to provide you with a snapshot so that you can see where we were, where we are, and where we're going. All right, the first slide is our guiding coalition. In our guiding coalition, we have, it's made up of our instructional coach, our counselor. Now, I'll go to our leadership discussions, which will explain some things. Now, in 2019, when I took that position of the principal at Lee Masters, we did not have a mission or a vision. Then with COVID and a lot of teacher movement, we didn't have a solid enough staff to develop a mission or vision. So with the work of Solution Tree, with the assistance of Solution Tree, this year we were able to develop a mission or vision, and we are in the process of creating a vision statement, which will be completed by next week. It is a collaborative process. All teachers and staff members have a voice in the creation of those documents. They're living documents, and they're part of what we do. Next, in our leadership discussions, we discuss some teaching instructional goals. The first thing we had to do was as you all know, there was a teacher shortage this year. We had to teach our staff how to be teachers. Some of our guest teachers came in with the only evidence of instruction that they knew was how they were taught, which many cases was outdated. So we had to teach them how to interpret data, how to interpret our standards. What do we need to teach? What's important? And understanding and unpacking those standards. Also, vocabulary. We know that vocabulary can be a barrier for some of our students, as well as our teachers that were new to the profession. So we spent a lot of time developing our staff members into what we consider to be great teachers. Okay. All right. And also with the staff movement that we experienced over the last year or so, we did have to reestablish our culture and climate. And we did that by creating a collective agreement, which will identify what we will always see at Lee Masters, what we will sometimes see at Lee Masters, and what we would never see at Lee Masters. And quite honestly, we were frank and precise with how we want our staff to act in professionalism and with instruction. All right. On the next slide, wanted to highlight some of our wins with our STAR assessment. The highlighted area indicates our kindergarten, which although those scores all through 5th grade were not where we wanted them to be, we did want to highlight some tremendous growth that our kindergartners showed, with 54% of our kindergartners were proficient or advanced when those two categories were added together. So what we want to do moving forward is build on that growth. Now which is going to take some strategic planning that I will do over the summer with our solution coach and my guiding coalition to strategically place those teachers that we have new and that we are recruiting so that we can continue making growth and build on the growth that we have already accomplished. All right, next steps. Next steps. As I mentioned, We are in the process of creating a vision statement that will be done by the end of the school year, which is next week. We're going to work on that. And that process goes out to staff because we do want to collaborate with staff and have staff members to have input in what we want our building to look like in the next 5 years. Also, with our work with Solution Tree, we wanted to, again, I want to continue that work of teaching our teachers how to be great teachers. Again, with unpacking those standards, teachers, making sure teachers know how to interpret data and to understand when students have got it or when they need some remediation or what we like to call interventions in these times. All right. Also, we will be working with the 5 types, which deals with collaborative work, guarantee a viable curriculum, and data teams, and analyzing data and common formative assessments. All right. Next slide will be our name it, claim it. As you see, our first graders use shaving cream, which was quite interesting for me. I had to wear some clothes on that day that I didn't mind getting dirty or messed up with the shaving cream because our first graders love to identify sight words and spell sight words with shaving cream and use their hands. On the second slide, you will see our culminating activity for our kindergartners, which they went to the zoo for a field experience. The bottom left slide is our school-wide activity. Now, the Level Up program was to highlight our students that show growth from the fall to the spring on our STAR assessment. That was an awesome time. We had a packed house, which felt awesome because for the first time since COVID, we were able to have a gym full of staff, students, and parents. So that was an awesome activity and awesome event. We were able to highlight some members of our CNI team and some other members of our school community and district community. And the last slide is our 5th graders in working in their math stations independently. All right. Next up, we have the illustrious principal of our Riverview Gardens High School, Miss Tracy Nave.
I can't live up to that. Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Tanya Patton, in the absence of Dr. Joylyn Wood Adams, community colleagues, and my scholar right here. Thank you this evening. I come before you to speak regarding the work of Riverview Gardens High School for the 22-23 school year. On this first page, you see our guiding coalition that's made up of our leadership team of administrators, our SSD area coordinator, district college and career coordinator, instructional coaches, department chairs, professional school counselors, home to school coordinators, restorative team, and our safety team. Our work this year with Solution Tree mostly focused on ELA as we look at the reading levels, the Lexile scores of our students across the board, but mainly focusing on 9th and 10th grade. We also focused on our work with Algebra 1. I don't know if many of you are aware, but we had, the high school had this year 3.5 math teachers out of 9. So the rest of our teachers were subs. This year we are thinking out the box to try to include that. But with those 3.5 math teachers, we knew that our focus needed to be on those Algebra 1 scores, that baseline for the freshmen, to make sure that they got the foundation that they needed. We also wanted to focus on the high yield standards. We knew that with subs and with just a few certified teachers, we couldn't go through all of the standards that were available for the district or for the state. So we needed to focus on those high yield standards, those quick wins that we could get. We have also had a school-wide effort to identify essential standards based on STAR. We had tier 2 interventions where we identified those students who needed that additional support in both math and reading. So we had Read 180. And when we found out that one of our PE teachers was also math certified, we had her to come in and she changed up her schedule where she was the Math 180 teacher. So she supported us in those efforts. So we have truly thought out of the box to make sure that our scholars are learning and growing this year. When we look at our celebrations, I'll start over to the right for you. When we're talking about our STAR reading assessments, you'll see that we're focusing on those Lexile levels, and it's talking about the grade level that our students are reading on. Last year, our sophomores, which those are the students who are taking English 2 assessment that is provided by the state or administered for the state. In 21-22, our STAR reading Lexiles at the beginning of the year for 10th grade were 805. And you might wonder, 805, what is that Lexile score? Just for your own knowledge, a 10th grader should really be about 1100, 1050. Okay, so we're showing some growth. Beginning of the year was 805 last year. At the end of the year in the spring, we were at 860. So there was an increase of 55, but there's still work to do. As we look at 10th grade for this year, we started at the beginning of the year at 905. So there's some improvement there and ended with the spring Lexile of 985 with an 80 gain. When you look over to the left, some of the things that I am very excited about, because even though we are looking at definitely ELA and Algebra 1, the high school also has those points that we have to make sure that we're guided towards, and that's in accordance with MSIP 6. So we need to look at graduation rate. We need to look at college and career readiness, those assessments that we have, how our students are performing on the ACT, ASVAB, AccuPlacer, work keys, where our students are going after they leave us. Are they going to 2-year, 4-year trade schools? Are they going to the military, or are they also going into the workforce? So we have those points that we need to also make sure that we're keeping our focus on. So as such, I wanted to acknowledge a celebration that from the previous year, we increased our graduation rate 12.02% from the previous school year. Thank you. We've provided for our scholars enrichment opportunities such as students participating in the St. Louis internship program, where they go to weekly Saturday trainings, and at the end of the program, they are afforded an opportunity to work for top companies, including Emerson and Boeing. We also have students participating in the Best Health program, Outdoor Youth Alternative Spring internship participation. We have 2 scholars who are participating in the Simmons New York University summer program. We have participation in the Umsel Bridge Saturday Academy, and we have students participating in the Young Scientist program at Washington University in St. Louis. This year, the high school sponsored 20 students, juniors and seniors, to participate in a week-long HBCU college tour during the spring break. We had some going on tours with the Ivy Foundation. We had some going with the Kwame Foundation and also with Peoples. So 3 different college tours where they went everywhere from Texas, Louisiana, Atlanta, Alabama, Florida. So our students were exposed to those schools, and they now have more of an idea of what they want to do moving forward. And our great news is that our class of 2023 has earned $6.75 million in scholarships. And that's definitely something to celebrate. Our next steps, we're moving forward with modifying our mission, vision, and goal statements. We want to make sure that we include all stakeholders. Our mission, vision, and goal statements have not been updated since prior to the pandemic. And so we know we need to bring our team in. We need to bring the community in, our parents in, our scholars in, as well as our staff. We want to make sure that our guiding coalition meets frequently to analyze data, set goals, and growth expectations for the upcoming school year. As I stated, we need to have our focus on academic achievement, but also attendance. Our attendance for this year, our freshmen had the lowest attendance this year. We know that we've got to go to those middle schools and start talking to the families at that time. I will be speaking at Central Middle School tomorrow, and that's one of the things that I'm going to discuss because we need our freshmen to start off on the correct foot when they come in. Graduation rate, a success-ready graduate, these are all things that we need to focus on in order to be compliant with MSIP 6, as well as our climate and culture. We know that our behaviors that we're seeing on our campus, our top 3 infractions are skipping is the number 1, then fighting, and then disrespectful speech and conduct. So we want to make sure that we are analyzing data and setting goals for growth expectations for the upcoming year. In addition, we're going to continue our work with Algebra 1 and ELA, unpacking those standards, provide targeted coaching for our and support to our guiding coalition, and completing calendar to make sure that we stay on target for our learning cycles. And finally, our name it and claim it. And this is not everything. There are so many slides that I wanted to include here for our name it and claim it, but this is just a little bit. You can see the work of our biology scholars in there. They're completing labs and they have a clear focus for the lesson. You see the students are engaged and they're able to apply the knowledge that they've gained. We also have information here or a slide over here in the top right of our scholars being participants at Washington University, also seeing how labs are performed at that level. So that's how we also got students who are now participating in the Young Scientist Research Program. The bottom 2 on the right are pictures from those college tours that our scholars participated in over the spring break in March. And then front and center, could you please stand up, Precious Berry? Get on up, girl. All right, so I had to put my phone so I would make sure that I put this. Precious Berry was, in addition to all of her other accomplishments, has now been named the regional winner of the National Bar Association MLK Oral Competition. Please join me and give her. In addition, I know that we've said this before, but I want to reiterate that she has earned over $1 million in college scholarships. She will be attending Washington University in St. Louis on a full ride. So while we have much work to do, we are up for the task, and I thank you for your support. At this time, if you have any questions, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Barbara Sharp.
A perfect transition. Thank you so very much. Let's give our leaders another round of applause. We will entertain any questions that you have now. Don't be frightened. Come forward. Come forward. Any questions that you may have?
Yes, ma'am. I learned a lot from all of you, number one, and I appreciate your time. Mr. Brown, these are basic questions that I'm sure maybe everybody else knows. But what is a sight word? What does that mean?
A sight word is a word that a student should just be able to recognize just by looking at it. For example, the word you. A student should be able to look at that word and say, that's you. And they could recognize it just based on just looking at the word.
So, but in order for that to happen, I'm going to not try to take things for granted. They have to know their ABCs.
Absolutely.
They have to know. So are students in kindergarten,
yes, ma'am.
Pre-kindergarten, are they understanding?
Yes, ma'am. That is a part of the what we're focusing on at Le Masters to understand. That's why when you saw that picture, they have to be able to write the word as well. They have to be able to spell out or write out the shapes of the words as well with their fingers. That's why the shaving cream was so important, that they can do it right in front of them. And it's just another way of engaging students as well in their own learning, because they get to get dirty and get filthy and get in it. And they like that type of activity, but it also helps with them learning their sight words as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know if it's you. You're not in the middle school, right?
No.
Ms. Clark, come on up.
Hi. What I want to know is, since when you get to the 9th grade and they're lacking in algebra, in the middle school, do you prepare them for the high school? You know, like in college, when we was in college, we always went to school, and then they prepared us for the next level.
So at the middle school level, we have 7th grade scholars that take 8th grade algebra, 8th grade math based on their performance in the prior year. We also have 8th grade scholars that take algebra 150, again, based on their performance in their 7th grade year. So they're identified based on their test scores, their performance, and just their ability to do the work. The math teachers do their best with the other scholars that are just taking 8th grade math to prepare them. Again, as Ms. Nave said, we had a shortage of teachers, specifically math teachers. So one of my instructional coaches, well, both of them, elected to go back into the classrooms to help. Which is part of why the gain was so tremendous for our 8th grade scholars. We hope that we truly send scholars prepared to the high school, especially for math, because it's such a tough subject for our district, all districts.
I can't remember. Also, someone mentioned field trips. Do you all, I don't know what the district policy is, but do you all take students on field trips? Because I know that's how I learned a whole lot of stuff, just being exposed to things that I didn't see in my neighborhood, in my community.
I'm so glad you asked. We have taken, this is the second time we've taken some of our social studies and our Avid scholars to the city courts. The first time they went for a tour and just to meet people. Monday, they attended again for a mock trial. Scholars went to the Arch today. So the middle school level doesn't usually do as many field trips, but this year we have taken the liberty of exposing our scholars to more exploratory experiences.
Thank you.
And Ms. Lane, I can speak to that as well, because all of the field trip forms come through the Student Support Office. And boy, do they ever take field trips. So there are a lot of field trips, and it does extend the learning for the students. So Rachel just mentioned a couple that Central has been on, but all of our schools, especially as Dr. Singleton mentioned, the budget was going to close, I started getting all kinds. So absolutely, they are extending the learning for the scholars. Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Anybody else have a question?
Madam President, I have a question.
Yes.
I had one question was, I appreciate the data that was provided, but I noticed there was not attendance and discipline data. Do you have information on that? Is it something that you can provide the next presentation? I was just curious to why that was no data about attendance and discipline was included, and then I'll ask my other questions.
Dr. May, I will be presenting the discipline and suspension data at one of the June board meetings. So I will bring all of that information forth. You guys were pointing that way.
I was going to say that Dr. Kennedy and
Go to the microphone.
Dr. May, hello, this is Tracy Nave. I believe, though, that Dr. Kennedy and Dr. Pruitt-Adams also presented the discipline and attendance data at last month's meeting.
Right. And
if there was something that you would like to have drilled down, then I think that will come from Dr. Patton's presentation.
Right. I will do one in June that will be a culmination of the entire year.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for. And then for the high school specifically, I know that Ms. Nave mentioned some of the college and career readiness information. Last year, I did specifically ask about the data like for 180 graduate follow-up, because all of that is a part of MSIP. So is there any way that we can have a presentation that included the total seniors graduated, the post-secondary assessments, like the total of students that participated in advanced placement courses, ACT, just a whole college and career readiness presentation, because it's an important MSIP area, is that data can be presented?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we will get with Shay to get me on the board, but
No, Tracy, you are already on the board. You on the agenda.
Oh, and TJN.
In TGN, you guys are on the agenda for June to present that information.
Wonderful.
Oh,
Coming
by the
soon,
way.
Dr. May, coming soon.
Thank you. And for the middle school, what is the collaboration with the high school around the 4-year planning that the 8th graders should do before they transition to high school? With the
One of the things we started last year was a forum where the high school scholars came to Central Middle School. They fielded questions from various scholars who are, of course, 8th grade scholars that are nervous about high school. Our counselors come in. We've also had 3 different events where high school scholars, and some of them former Central Middle School scholars, have come to speak with our 8th grade scholars. Just based on what they should experience, what they should expect, and then how different the high school experience is from the middle school experience. So they've been exposed, the conversations have been had, and we are continuing to collaborate with high school and then middle to elementary school to make certain that scholars are ready and feel a little more at ease when they make the transition to the next level.
Okay, you know how like in SLPS, they had the 9th grade transition during the summertime. Do Riverview Garden do that, or is it something that they did at one point and don't do anymore? I just want to see how they're transitioning.
So the first year at Central Middle, we had a 6th grade transition program where 6th graders came. It wasn't an extensive program, but it was a 1-day 6th grade only. They had the opportunity to experience Central Middle School by themselves, the tours, speaking with the teachers, the flow of the day, and the high school also does the same thing with 9th graders.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem, thank you.
No further questions.
Anybody else have questions? The question that I wanted to ask was, I know that the board approves a lot of, I'll call them enrichment programs to help students and what have you. Do you have any incentives that you might use, offer to the students to some of the programs that he said that are 24-hour programs and things like that, that they could take advantage of or utilize? Are there any type of incentive programs to kind of make kids want to take advantage of some of those things?
I have to think about this, Ms. Morrow, but I immediately went to the incentive that Ms. Mott and her team with the freckle. There were some incentives for our students to participate in that. And I think, whereas high school, they're kind of like, oh, what is this? That incentive really pushed our numbers to where students wanted to participate. And I just want to give her a shout out for having that as well. And I'd like for us to continue that effort. In addition, I just want to circle back to, I don't know, do you all have something? Dr. May, we do have a tracker. I know that you're familiar with that tracker that is used in St. Louis Public. So we have all of that information from graduate follow-up, the number of students who have taken ACT, Accuplacer, ASVAB, work keys, all of that, the number of the discipline, we have all of that, all of the college and career readiness, as well as our graduate follow-up.
I have one question for Mr. Brown and for Ms. Clark. And the name of the program escapes me, but is there a transition program for the 5th graders who will be entering 6th grade? Is that part of the summer school curriculum where the incoming 6th graders would go to summer school at the middle school and they become acclimated with the whole middle school, changing classes and using lockers and all that stuff we do that's so different from elementary?
And not at this time. The summer school setup is geared for rising 5th graders or rising 6th graders to remain at the elementary level, because we have rising 6th, 7th, and 8th or rising 7th, 8th, and 9th in our buildings at the middle school level. So not at this time. We just take that one day to make sure that our 6th grade scholars that are coming in feel special and not so afraid, because they are so nervous when they get there.
Are there plans in the future to implement such a program? Because it's a big transition from elementary to middle school, and just lockers are so intimidating to them. And just, the fact that now I have, instead of 1 or 2 teachers, now I have 5 or 6, and I got to get to class on time, and I'm responsible for moving. The teachers aren't coming to me, and all those things that have to be learned so that they are prepared for middle school.
So just to respond to your question, we will take that back to Superintendent Pruitt-Adams, and we'll continue working on that. There are a lot of plans that are currently in place, and so we'll take that back to her.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any additional questions?
Just lastly, I'd like to say, Dr. Sharp, I remember, I've only been on the board a year, so I'm learning a whole lot. And I remember you corrected me about that as soon as I said it. But that's okay. That's okay. No, that's fine. Because you look like Dr. Sharp to me. But I remember thinking how much, when you kept asking for training and all the funds, I was confused a little bit about that. But Mr. Brown definitely, very diplomatically, but explained why all of that was so necessary. Yes. And I guess before this, and it's was part of the ESSER funds that supported some of this, because these schools not part of the turnaround thing. No, they're right? No. We voted to still extend this extra to the rest of the schools.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you all are doing. And so I really at that point didn't understand how important what you were asking for, because I naively thought if they're a teacher, they know how to teach. But you very diplomatically explained your process and your plans and trying to get everybody on the same page. And you guys have a lot of responsibility, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. And we appreciate each member of the Special Administrative Board for your continuous support. So this presentation tonight is simply just to give you a snapshot, if you will, of the work that is occurring. As several principals mentioned, there is an enormous amount of work that's going on, and time just does not permit for them to tell the whole story, but we did want to provide just an overview for you. So we thank you for your time, your support, and your attention. Thank you.
And can our principals stay there for a second? And can the other principals in the audience please stand? Yes. Yeah. We said thank you to them at our district leadership team meeting, but they have been through it this year. And I looked at Dr. Henderson. I said, oh, you have on heels, because they usually have on tennis shoes because they're around their buildings. Tracy Navis around that campus. I think there have been one time in 3 years I actually caught her in her office. Otherwise, they're around the campus and they are working hard, and they do deserve a big round of applause. So thank you all for what you do. Seriously, it's hard. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item for information is the Student in Transition Program Evaluation. That is in line with board policy, and presenting this will be Stephanie Schumbert, our SIT coordinator, and she is presenting virtually.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, I was waiting. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Good evening. There we go. Good evening. Again, my name is Stephanie Schumbert. I am the Students in Transition Coordinator for the district. Next slide, please. Changes that have been made since last year, or since our last eval. We added one position to The SIT office, it was a home to school coordinator position. It was added in August of 22. The position is currently unfilled. We are looking to get that position reposted over the next couple of weeks. Next slide. Goals and objectives. Our goals and objectives are to adhere to the district's consent decree and implementation plan as required by the courts. It's also to ensure all barriers to education are removed for our SIT scholars. This includes scholars that are in foster care as well. It is also to identify families that are in need in the district, meaning those who are unhoused, living with relatives, yet still have needs that are not being met. Another goal is to ensure SIT scholars meet or exceed the 90% attendance goal. And lastly is to ensure SIT scholars have access to the same opportunities within the district as all Riverview Gardens students have, such as access to sports, tutoring, and all other activities that the district may have available. Next slide. Tools and criteria to evaluate. We use the SISK attendance monitoring. We also we make maintenance of our SIT spreadsheets, which include enrollment dates, transportation dates, dates of first attendance in the school district, as well as case management of our SIT scholars. That's basically reviewing staff notes, making contact with families, and various other things like that as far as case management is concerned. I also participate in the best interest determination meetings, which are bid meetings, which include case management and other school districts around the St. Louis area, as well as following the implementation plan and or our consent decree created by the lawyers and the courts. Next slide, please. Success of the program based on the data analysis of effectiveness and basically the benefits. We reintroduced the QR code for our SIT families to use to complete SIT paperwork for this school year. Communicated with the SIT families to identify family needs and provided them with contact information to community agencies that provided different resources or that had resources available. We provided and delivered hygiene kits to our SIT scholars that included toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, lotions, body wash, and anything we could get our hands on to be able to provide for our families. We also provided school supplies to our SIT scholars in the buildings around the district for our elementary kiddos. We also provided school uniforms for elementary and middle school scholars. And we also handed out, and we are still handing out, laundry kits to our SIT families that include detergent, dryer sheets, things like that, because we know that those are items that sometimes, you know, our families don't have or don't have the monies to get purchase those items as often as they could. Continue, you know, another part of or another benefit is basically to continue removing the barriers toward ensuring all SIT students have access to educational opportunities by training school personnel. Basically, we do a couple trainings every school year, and we provided transportation for more than 350 scholars in our district. We consistently monitor the attendance and grades of the SIT scholars and communicate with the families when there were concerns. Next slide. Opportunities and steps. We will continue to work closely with the district intervention coordinator, the principals, and other key leaders to reduce the number of gaps in services for our scholars. We will assist in dealing with scholars with behavioral concerns and other barriers that keep scholars from attending school. We will continue establishing community connections to ensure housing, food, medical, and other necessary resources are available to the families that we serve. Provide ongoing training to district personnel to ensure adherence to the McKinney-Vento Act, and to continue reiterating the purpose of the Students in Transition program. One of the last things is basically to support students with college applications and scholarships, and develop and maintain accurate records to ensure accurate yearly reporting to the state. Next slide. And that is it. Any questions or concerns?
Madam President, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, I was curious about partnerships with, if you all can mute either the boardroom or the presenter, that's what's creating the feedback because they both are unmuted. But I was wondering if there's any partnerships with like Urban League or Community Action Agency for additional supports with resources for families, and had there been a consideration for a specific resource fair for the families to support housing and employment?
Currently, we don't have any partnerships for what you're speaking of. So no, we don't. We are definitely willing to, if there are any, that want to be, if you'd like to send some to me or some contacts or some connections, we definitely welcome those.
Okay, that sounds good. So I am recommending as a support to families to have a specific hiring fair. We have all these vacancies. There may be families that are unhoused that may qualify for some of these positions. But if they are specifically targeted for opportunities with resume writing support, I think that that will be a great opportunity to close the gap, financial gap for some of our unhoused families. I just want to put that out there as a recommendation. And I will be providing some resources from the agencies that I'm aware of, because we should be able to reduce that 350 down with all the agencies that we have available.
Hey, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, we have, Riverview Gardens has several MOUs. I mean, we are probably in the 20 to 30 MOUs and partnerships throughout our district. The only thing that we don't do is make a difference between the general community and our SIC community, because we don't want them to be identified. Although in spite of that, our counselors and social workers work with all of our families to meet all of their needs, and that includes our SIT population. But we are more than willing to take other recommendations. If you have other partnerships that we can seek out, please, if you will send those to me, I will gladly look for those as well.
Okay, sure will.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I have a question for Dr. Patton. I learned on this last week at my Board of Aldermen meeting that there's a high percentage of residents who rent a house and then they move out and they don't tell the city or anybody else. And then some other people move in and they don't go through the process of asking for getting permits and inspections and things like that. So, and my question is, there's got to be a lot of children who are involved in that kind of situation. So how do we address that without, I understand we're not wanting to make a difference in the population, And, the child can only do what the parent does.
Right.
But there's a lot of students who are just taken out of the district. And do you know what happens to them and where they go?
Well, Ms. Lane, most of our students are attached to a MOSIS number. And so once they move out of our school district and they attempt to enroll in another school district, their MOSIS number identifies them. So we know where they are. So for instance, if you withdrew your student today and enrolled them next week in Ferguson Florissant, DESE will pick up that MOSIS number. Each student has an identifiable number.
Oh.
Right. And so wherever they enroll, we can track them where they were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where they came from and where they're going, we can track them that way. But we are aware there are families within our community that live in actually other communities that are claiming to be a part of our district as well. And we are looking for a better process for monitoring that as well. Okay. The last item for information is summer professional learning. It is being presented by Dr. Tiffany Patton.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Acting Superintendent, the other Dr. Patton, colleagues and community members. I am presenting and reviewing the information that has been provided to you on the Summer Professional Learning Opportunities sponsored or supported by our district. The summer learning opportunities were chosen based on staff feedback from the Summer PD Needs Assessment Survey that went out in February, as well as feedback from our SAB and our district leaders regarding professional development needs. The first opportunity provided will occur on June 13th. The topic is facilitating number talks and planning for concrete representational and abstract instruction in math. This opportunity is targeted towards elementary teachers who will not be able to access this content during the regular school year, as they will be engaged in letters training on the science of reading. Expected expenditures for this opportunity are $4,475. The second opportunity is a Level Up Institute from July 11th through 13th, sponsored by our Turnaround School Partner Solution Tree. It focuses on accelerating learning and multi-tiered systems of academic intervention. This training was highly recommended for a successful year 2 of the Turnaround Partnership with Solution Tree. Therefore, we did recruit teams from all 12 schools to attend the Institute. We have a total of 70 staff members committed to attending. The expected expenditures for registrations for this learning experience are $34,453. The last opportunity is the district-sponsored Equity in Action Conference on July 18th and 19th. Topics for this conference were chosen in accordance with the Needs Assessment Survey results. This conference will be keynoted by Dr. Sonia Murray, author of the newly released book, Serving Educational Equity. On the 18th, participants will have the opportunity to choose 2 out of 4 sessions for training on either classroom management tools to build a positive classroom environment, managing conflict and engaging parents through relationship building and effective communication, low prep cognitive strategies to increase student engagement, and using an equity mindset to actively engage students. The second day of the conference will focus on staff wellness. This day will be keynoted by Drs. Granger and Dr. Knight, licensed therapists and creators of the This Is Not a Drill curriculum, designed to address the massive exodus of teachers from the field and high staff burnout in schools. Session topics for this day range from stress management to prioritizing individual wellness. Expected expenditures for this opportunity are $45,073. This concludes the summer learning opportunity sponsored or promoted by the district. I am happy to answer any additional questions you may have at this time. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Oh, you may as well stay right there, Dr. Patton.
Yeah.
We are moving into the discussion items. The first item says Social Studies Professional Development. That was previously presented, so we are going to go to item B. That is the Level Up Institute Conference registration. Presenting that is Dr. Tiffany Patton, our Professional Development Coordinator.
And I have covered the details of that institute already in my presentation. So tonight we are asking for approval as well for this amount so that we may go ahead and complete the registration for our 70 staff members.
Thank you, Dr. Patton.
You're welcome.
Our next item up for discussion is surplus library books. It is being presented by Tanya Ross, ELA Curriculum Coordinator.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Patton and Dr. JPA in her absence, school community and colleagues. Tonight, I am offering up for discussion surplus library books that are no longer being used because they're either torn or damaged in some kind of way. In addition, it helps the libraries to meet the expectation of trying to increase the year of their collection, which their collection should be within 10 years of the current year. These books will be donated to Salvation Army. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a question, Madam President.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to recommend, because as a board, there is new recommendation for us to engage with the community in different ways. And I would like for there to be a consideration for not just to go from the students to the staff, but also maybe identify a deadline for the community to retrieve those books before they go to Salvation Army, because we do have organizations, even like with one of the ones that one of our board members does, where she's doing literacy. And if we don't expand it where the community can also get resources before we give it to Salvation Army, we're not, fully engaging everyone that could benefit from it. So I just want for consideration that we have maybe a deadline that the community can get it before we would give it to the Salvation.
Sure, Dr. May. Some years ago, and I mean many years ago, when we had a warehouse, we did such a thing. So trying to find a central location to once put those books or get those books to that central location would be the priority for that. However, it's definitely something that we can entertain. And I'm sorry, I forgot to add to this presentation. There was an additional document attached, which included the number of weeded books from the various schools. Originally, you were given Koch, Meadows, and Lewis and Clark, and the high school was just recently added on today. So I want to make sure that you go back and look at that attachment as well for the total number. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. The next item for discussion is the 2024-2025 calendar adoption that is being presented by Monica Williams, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, colleagues, and community. Tonight, I will be presenting an item for discussion, which is the 2024-2025 calendar adoption. And you will see in your information that the calendar committee met, and we developed the calendar. It has 171 student attendance days, 188 teacher contract days, 10 professional development days, and 5 teacher work days. It is recommended that the Special Administrative Board approve the proposed 2024-2025 district calendar as presented. Are there any questions?
Madam President.
Yes.
I noticed that I was surprised that it was being voted on or being discussed so early. So kudos to the calendar committee. I noticed that the current one nor that one has the dates for summer school. Like it's not specifically indicated like when summer school is every June. So is there a reason why that's not included? Can it be included? And also some other larger districts actually indicate and reference for the community election dates. Is that something that can be considered?
Yes, it can absolutely be considered. It has not been a part of our calendar summer school in the past, but definitely it can be considered.
Moving to our next item for discussion, the 2023-2024 insurance rates, and presenting that is Ms. Monica Williams.
Okay, so here presenting the 2023-2024 insurance rates. We have increases proposed for the upcoming school year. Medical will increase by 12%. The kids plan 16.1%. HSA 11.9%, dental 1.3% increase. There's a 2.8% decrease in vision and no change in basic life or voluntary life. And so with that, you can see in your information packet the increase in the premiums for our insurance rates for the 2023-2024 school year. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Okay, thank you.
The next item for discussion is priority schools in a PLC at work district training. Presenting that is Ms. Barbara Sharp, Executive Director of Continuous Improvement.
Good evening again. Tonight, I'm presenting to you the priority schools in a PLC at work district training, and that is for 4 additional days. This request or this need was initially planned for year 1 of the PLC solution tree agreement. Unfortunately, scheduling did not permit for the additional days at that particular time. The request tonight is for the 4 additional days to be used for the upcoming school year at a cost not to exceed $30,000. And I'll take any questions that you may have at this particular time.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Thank you.
Our next item for discussion is a summary of the fund balance report for the month ending April 30th. Presenting that is Dr. Levon Singleton, CFO.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Tanya Patton, colleagues and community. Before I present the summary of fund balance report for the month ending April, I do want to introduce our newest staff member to the finance department. I'm going to ask Tony Ziegler if you would come and just join me at the podium. Tony, he looks like a high school student, right? Mr. Ziegler is the new accounting manager in the finance department. He's a CPA. He comes to us having previously worked and having lots of audit experience. We know that is one of the main goals of the finance department and our special administrative board is to eliminate our audit findings. And he has promised me that that is his number one charge, is to help us get rid of those audit findings. So I would have just let him just say a couple words. So.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, community and colleagues. Just want to say I'm excited to join the finance team. Looking forward to working with Dr. Singleton and everybody else, and already started working on the comments. So that we got a good start on that. And then, also trying to work on finalizing the 2023-2024 budget, as well as working on the preliminary work for the 2022-2023 audit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Ziegler. So the summary of fund balance report, and again, I give this report on a monthly basis, so I'll try to be a little more swift than previously. So if you go to the next page, again, this is for the 10 months through April. So it doesn't include any activity for May and June. Let me just say, we have lots more expenditures to happen, lots more money to bring into the school district. And so we are excited about what we're doing. So I will start that page right there. The summary page shows where we started, the $24.599 million at the beginning
beginning of the school year. The revenue and expenditures in the middle shows what we've collected and then spent through year to date. And then it gives us an ending fund balance of roughly about $25 million. We are expecting that number to increase, of course, over the next couple of months. We're winding down a lot of spending, and we're expecting that we're going to pull in some additional monies from our ESSER platforms that we're going to be looking at. So second page deals with the grant expenditures only. And again, you all hear me talk about ESSER all the time. We've got title grants. And so far, about $39 million of those grants, we've spent about half. We still got roughly half of that, those monies out there remaining to make sure we spend those as well. The next page looks at the revenues, the grant revenues, okay? Again, $40 million coming in. We received about $14 million. We've still got about $25 million in outstanding collections, and we're expected to bring those monies in, hopefully within the next couple months. The good thing about ESSER, the ESSER grants, ESSER 2 ends this September, ESSER 3 ends the following September. And so we're going to do all we can to finish out this school year, knowing that we still have some additional time remaining with the ESSER 3 funds to spend those monies. On the very next page deals with the revenue for the 10 months, again, for April the 30th of this year. It just breaks everything down by fund, okay? What goes into the general fund? What goes into the teacher's fund? For instance, in the teacher's fund, you can only spend that money on salary and benefits for teachers, okay? So certain monies go into the general fund, certain monies goes into the teacher's fund. Our debt services fund can only be used to pay outstanding bond obligations, capital projects, food service, and so forth. Also, the next page deals with the expenditures for the same time period. What do we spend out of the general fund? Basically, our operating fund, the teacher's fund. A lot of that, majority of that, salary and benefits for teachers, debt services, capital projects. Again, all of these are broken down by the various funds in which we have to spend them. The last two pages, again, the revenue we talked about. We always like to give the SAB a picture of where have we been this time year over year. So in 2021, we were roughly in the general fund, we had about $23 million this time of year. In 2022, we had about $27 million. Well, that's when those COVID funds really start kicking in. Right now in 2023, we're running at about $32 million. So we're seeing a significant increase and we're making good use of those COVID funds, okay? Same in terms of the revenues for the teachers fund. They've been very consistent as well. And we can see the various other funds that are being reflected also. The last page deals with the expenditures. Of course, when you bring in more money, you spend more money. And so our expenditures have certainly lived up to the same pattern. In 2021, in the general fund, this time of the year, we spent about $20 million. In 2022, $23 million. And in 2023, so far, we've spent about $29, almost $30 million. And again, a lot of that can be solution tree and those additional things that we're putting a lot of emphasis on as our principals have shared that information with us on tonight. That concludes the summary of the fund balance report. Are there any questions that I can answer at this time?
I do have one. I just wanted to find out how are we doing with pacing the spending of our grants? Are we, it was a time when we had a lot of money left over that wasn't being utilized. How are we doing with the spending? Pacing it pretty good where we're.
Yes, ma'am. So we generally file quarterly reports, especially with our title programs. Title is always kind of a hiccup, even at the state level. They were short staffed. And so it's always a delay in getting that title grant approved. And so I've seen that grant get approved as late as January or February, you know. And so the district does in those earlier months, we're using general funds because remember, title funds is a reimbursable grant. Right. So we're using general funds. And then once that grant comes available, then all of a sudden we file this huge expenditure report. So we are pacing. I know Ms. Curtis has met with the principals about their spending. I think they're doing the principals and also the other obligations under the title programs. I think they're doing fairly well. And so to answer your question, I think we're doing a better job of pacing ourselves with our grant expenditures. Okay, thank you. All right.
Thank you, Dr. CFO.
Madam President, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Singleton, have you began working with the treasurer on the board yet for all the responsibilities that's indicated in the policy? Because it seems like district receive district monies and deposit them into proper accounts. It's a long list of things that I think is the responsibility of the treasurer. Have you began working with our treasurer concerning those responsibilities yet?
Yes, so I will say that once the board elected the treasurer, I believe last month, we immediately went into the system. There are certain financial documents with our banks and things that we had to get. We immediately got those things printed. I got those to Ms. Fields and Mrs. Lane did come down. We got those signed. And so we are in the process of transitioning all of that over. So to answer your question, yes, we have started that process. It's still probably a few more things that we got to get in place, but thank you, Dr. Avant Elliott. That process has started and we are moving forward to make sure the treasurer has all of the accesses. I do want to say, and I think I shared this via email, I know at one point there was a question about the treasurer being bonded. Within our own insurance policy through music that we pay, we do have at least a $50,000 bond that comes with the policy that covers our treasurer. So she will be bonded. Whomever the treasurer is or will ever be is always covered under our insurance policy. So yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're doing a fine job, Mr. CFO.
Thank you.
The next item for discussion, the next three items actually will be presented by me. So I'm not going to run over there. I'll just do it from here. This is an MOU with the Soul Fishers Ministry. Soul Fishers has been a part of the Riverview Garden School District since 2012. I think at that time they were serving 1 to 2 schools. They are now in 6 of our schools. They are in 4 and we'll add 2 more next year, which would be Danforth and LeMaster's Elementary School. And this organization provides a lot of academics to our students, supporting them with after school programs, summer programming, feeding them meals after school, taking them home after their after school program ends. So I'm bringing forth to the board. It is recommended that you approve the MOU with Soul Fishers Ministry at no cost to the district. Are there any questions? Okay, moving to the next. Oh, Dr. May, do you have any questions? I can't see you, so I want to pause.
No. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The Little Bit Foundation is the next MOU I bring forth. They've been in our district for a number of years. They provide all kinds of activities, food, clothing, STEM, all kinds of activities to our high school students, to our elementary and middle school students. They make sure they have shoes, socks, food, everything you can imagine that they need to be successful. The Little Bit Foundation provides. So I am recommending that the SAB approve this MOU with the Little Bit Foundation at no cost to the district. Are there any questions?
Yes, I do have a question on that, Madam President.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I noticed on the bills, the Little Bit Foundation was on the bills, so I was kind of curious to why we were billing them or paying them for something if their fees or, their services are free. I was just a little confused about seeing them on the bills for a certain amount versus the MOU and their services being free.
So we have an after-school program that they are paying, it started in 2 of our elementary schools. Dr. Henderson, what is the program that they do after is it robotics? Yeah, the robotics. So in 2 of our elementary schools, they paid for it. We, Riverview Gardens, wanted to expand it. And so we wanted many more of our students to have access to that robotics. So we offered, because they did not have the funding to pay for that with ESSER funds. So in order to give 4 more, or I think it's 3 more of our schools access to the robotics, Riverview Gardens is paying for that through ESSER funds, Dr. May.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. And the last item that I'm bringing forth for discussion is a memorandum of understanding for BJC's Diabetes Health Services. Due to the funding, I think it's called the Children's Service Funding that's been in place since 2008, we as in Riverview Gardens are able to have partnerships with many community providers. And they give us services from mental health to counseling to case management to substance abuse to treatment, all kinds of preventive services. So BJC is offering to support our community once again with the diabetes van and bringing it to our schools. It is free again, and I'm recommending that the SAB approve this MOU with Washington University to serve our students. Are there any questions?
It's not a question, but a comment, but this is timely because the number of students and young students, even in elementary school, is really increasing with students having diabetes. So, it's getting, the numbers are really increasing. It was kind of hard to look at, but yeah, they're increasing.
They are. Are there any other questions?
Additional questions?
Okay.
Wait a minute. Are they teaching about diabetes to these students?
They are. They are teaching our students so that they can care for themselves. So they are not only supporting the student, they are also supporting the families so that they can make sure that the students are safe as well. But their quest is to make our students independently be able to care for themselves. Any other questions? All right. That can, go ahead, Dr.
This is a wonderful idea. And as a diabetic, I often wonder, can we also offer, or can we get them to offer maybe a night of education for parents talking about nutrition, because it's just so much that we, especially in our community, we don't know as far as nutrition. And we used to cooking the way grandma cooked and all of that. And we're finding out now that those aren't meals that we often need. So is there a way that we could get them maybe to come out and share some ideas about nutrition and portion serving and all those things?
Absolutely, Dr. Coleman. That's a great idea. And one of our district nurses, the district at Highland, has proposed doing educational classes after school for parents to help from everything from asthma to food portions to diabetes. And so she's proposing that we can also use our community partners to do that as well. Great idea. Thank you.
Wait a minute. You're talking about like going in the home?
No. Having say we had something at the school.
At the school.
Parents would come out so we could talk about nutrition and healthy food choices and things like that so that our parents can be taught, because a lot of times we don't know.
And the parents are going to be at the school?
Yes, we would invite them to come.
For an evening, like one of our parent night out, PTA kind of things. Yeah.
Town hall.
The town hall, yeah.
Okay, so the problem that we have as far as I was case manager. The majority of the people can't afford what's on that list, that food list. You know what I'm saying? If you go and you look at some of these cabinets at these parents' home, you see that they don't have the money for that. So you have to think of alternative ways where they can get that nutrition in. You know what I'm saying?
that may be true that, because I know food is expensive, fruit and some vegetables, but do we know, I was in the store, in our little community store right down the street, and I watched a woman in front of me. She had a full basket full of processed food, everything in the basket, frozen pizza, pizza rolls, ramen noodles, chicken sandwich, the hot stuff and all that. At some point, we can be taught to buy frozen vegetables. And if you buy canned, rinse them off and let's have a choice of a vegetable and a fresh piece of meat as opposed to hot chicken breast sandwich, because our kids like that and it's easy and they can prepare it for themselves. It may not, and there are some places and you may not go out and buy the choicest cut of beef, but there is food that is affordable. But our problem is not often so much that we cannot afford. Our problem is that we don't know and we're not taught to make healthy choices. We just, we are fried chicken. Why you can't bake that same chicken,
Yeah, we can do that. And we also have partners. There's a fresh food bus that parks itself across the street over here at the library. So we can also share that information with our community as well. That concludes all of my items for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now then move to item number 9, which is approval of the consent agenda item. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. Roll call vote, Shay.
I have a question.
I know. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Chair. Under the policy recommendation, under consent approval, there is some narrative in there that has a timeline of July 1, I think it said, that the district should meet with the community to come up with a collaboration of how we're going to institute the involvement. Do we know when we're going to do that?
Mr. Sistrunk, do you want to speak to that?
Oh, good evening again. To answer your question, we don't have a definitive date. We know that July 1st or June 30th is the deadline to have that plan approved. So we will have to bring something to the SAB here in June.
And the other day, during our DLT meeting, we shared that we received correspondence from MSBA that as long as the policy is adopted and we have a plan moving forward on how that engagement is going to take place, then we're in compliance. So not to worry, we need to adopt the policy. And then Mr. Sistrunk is over the committee. And so I've sent some committee members his way. And so that committee will meet and then he'll come up with those ways in which to engage the community.
Oh, okay, so July 1 is really not the deadline.
So July 1 is the deadline to adopt the policy.
Gotcha.
And the correspondence from MSBA said, as long as we have a plan in which we're going to engage the community, then we'll be okay.
Okay.
But we do have to adopt the plan.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, and we are working on those tools and resources to engage the community. But those may not, the tools should be in place by July 1. But as Ms. Fields talked about, the full plan of action, that's still something that's in the works.
Madam President, I have a quick question. Mr. Sistrunk, isn't that something that in the communications committee meeting we can just add to the work that we do? Or do you need to have a whole separate committee for that?
Well, that is a conversation that we've had. We've talked about making that part of the communications committee. That's also been talked about as a subcommittee under the CSIP plan, because there's a lot of crossover in between those. So Dr. Tanya Patton and I, along with Dr. Nichols and I, are trying to work through that, but there'll likely be some crossover. So it won't just be the communications committee, but we will work with the communications committee in terms of identifying people to be on that committee and in that plan.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I get a roll call vote, Shay?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Dr. Von Elliott,
Yes.
Mario,
Yes.
Ms. Isworth,
Yes.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Ms. Baxter,
Yes. We have one item on the items for action, and that is Level Up Institute Conference registration. May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any additional questions? Roll call vote, Shay?
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Ms. Isworth,
Yes.
Mario,
Yes.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
and Dr. May.
Yes.
With no further business to discuss, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So
So
moved.
move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions?
I just wanted to say that Dr. Patton did a great job tonight facilitating.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody else, y'all spend the night?
Yeah.
We getting ready to go.
We are adjourned.